Welcome back to the channel, my fellow pirates. I'm your Captain Doc, and as promised a couple of days ago, I know we missed it on Friday, we're going to be taking a look at the main character of My Hero Academia, the ninth holder of One for All, Bakugo's childhood punching bag, and the future greatest hero of the My Hero Academia world, Izuku Miydoriyia. He is a character that many people have either trashed completely or praised to Kingdom Come. Personally, I enjoy Miydoriyia, but as we will get into later, I do have a few issues with Deku himself and the fan base. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and take a look at his history and origins of the boy that we know as Deku. Izuku Miydoriyia, the protagonist of My Hero Academia, was born in a world where nearly everyone possesses a superhuman ability known as a quirk. From a young age, Izuku idolized pro-heroes, especially the symbol of peace, All Might, and dreamed of becoming one of himself. However, his dreams were shattered when the doctors revealed he was quirkless. Despite his painful setback, Izuku stayed determined, studying heroes obsessively and filling his notebooks with their abilities, weaknesses, and strategies. His unwavering admiration for heroism became the core part of who he was. His life changed dramatically when he encountered All Might during a villain attack. Seeing that Izuku rushed forward to save his classmate Katsuki Bakugo, despite having zero powers at all, showed All Might the true spirit of a hero. This led All Might to reveal his secret. His quirk, One for All, can be passed down. Believing Izuku was worthy of the ability, he chose him as his successor. Under All Might's guidance, Izuku trained intensely to prepare his body to inherit the quirk. After receiving One for All, Izuku was accepted into UA High School, the top hero training academy in Japan. There he joined Class 1A, where he found strong rivals, close friends, and non-stop challenges. His time at UA threw him into a real combat situations, difficult training, and encounters with powerful villains. As he pushed through each obstacle, Miydoriyia slowly learned how to control One for All, though early on, the power often left him injured due to the overwhelming strength. As he continued to grow, Izuku uncovered the deeper mysteries of One for All, including the connection to the previous users and its role in fighting the villain All for One. These revelations reshaped his understanding of his mission and the weight placed on his shoulders. Through battles against the League of Villains, the Paranormal Liberation Front, and many other deadly foes, Izuku matured, learning to be a balanced empathy, strategy, and power while striving to protect others. Ultimately, Izuku's origins aren't defined by the quirk he inherited, but by the heroic arc he had before gaining it. His journey is one of perseverance and growth, taking him from a powerless boy to a symbol of hope. As he strives toward becoming the world's greatest hero, his story shows what it truly means to save others with a smile, just like his hero he admired once from afar. Now we're at the portion of the video where I talk about my personal thoughts and opinions of the character. And how we usually start off with this is we ask the question, how was I introduced to the character? It was a similar way how Bakugo was. I remember just watching some YouTube clips. I kept on hearing about it all over across school, that like, oh, My Hero Academia, and seeing not only this kid blow stuff up, but that same kid telling this kid with a broccoli haircut to go jump off the building and kill himself. I'm like, crap, what kind of show is this? And like, I'm just seeing this like weird, pathetic, green-haired kid just sitting there crumble up, and I'm like, wait, this is the protagonist of the show? Like, how is he ever going to get a backbone if he keeps acting like this? And honestly, I kind of wrote him off at the beginning, and I just didn't really care at first, and I kind of wanted to see if there was going to be any more interesting characters, so I watched more of the episodes as it went on. And of course, after being introduced to All Might, kind of finally getting that hook into the show, seeing Deku's journey at the beginning kind of helped me bring me into the story more, and see that how much he trained, how much he wanted to actually inherit this quirk and be accepted into UA. It's a wild thing to go see this pathetic middle schooler becoming this very powerful hero at the beginning, and learning more and more what it means to be a hero. And so this brings me to my next question. What do I enjoy about Deku? It is not only his resourcefulness, it is not only how human he is, it is how much he affects everybody else. He's not a flat character like Luffy is or like Goku is. He goes from a positive change arc to kind of a flat character arc to a negative character arc. He's kind of a hybrid character almost, especially through the different seasons and the different chapters of the story. It really interests me to see how he not only matures and grows in his abilities. It just shows you the kind of toll this kind of power has, because for those of you, I'm going to be adding this in post, but we're going to have a little mute icon kind of somewhere, I'd say around here where my hand's at, and this is going to be spoilers for right here. So if you guys don't want spoilers for this, mute your mics, or mute the video so you can go past it, or go skip to this timestamp if you like. So for those of you who are here and have already watched this, and I've been spoiled this, so this is more so my fault, but we come to find out as he grows into his abilities, we come to find out, as kind of mentioned in the history and origins, that there's a connection between him and the previous users, and of course with All Might, because that's his mentor, but more so because as he's moving along and as he's training, and I believe it's around season 4 or season 5 where he activates the Black Whip for the first time, and we find out the Black Whip was the previous, I believe it's the second holders, or is it the third? I'm not entirely sure, so don't get mad at me in the comments. Don't get mad. I know how many people really enjoy this character. Please. Anyway, he gets the Black Whip ability. Eventually, of course, he would get the other abilities of the users later on, but it shows the ability of the adaptation of this power for Deku to eventually start getting more and more powers, more and more attachment to those other holders of One for All, and seeing the power progress from there for the main character to go from a decent heavy hitter to a go all out dude is a really interesting thing. It's something that I really appreciate that One Piece does, and they do it really well here in My Hero Academia for Deku, because it's not like he's automatically getting all these abilities. Well, sort of, but in such a way where it kind of makes sense, where as he's growing, he's getting more of these abilities. He's understanding One for All more and more. And as we move forward, as we're going on, he gets more and more of these abilities and these way to use them and to adapt them to his core moveset is really interesting to see. Now, this also brings me to the question, what do I not enjoy? Honestly, it was definitely his he's a very emotional character a lot of the time, and he cried a lot at the beginning. And like, mind you, I get it. He's a teenager. He's gonna feel things. He's gonna feel a lot of different things. And it's like, okay, you need to calm down, kid. Let's not get it twisted. You need to chill a little bit. You don't need to be crying too long. And that's kind of what kind of pushed me away a little bit. But putting it in the context that he's a high schooler, it kind of helps, but it kind of doesn't. And especially the fact that I think before he even got the One for All, it kind of just pushed me away. He cried a lot in it. Now, mind you, this was kind of an emotionally rewarding moment, but it kind of still, with the amount of times he cried, it kind of ruined it for me. And I still had that kind of connection through All Might, but it also still made me have that disconnect. Because at that time, when I was a teenager, I didn't really, not saying I never really cried, but I never really was that emotionally charged most of the time. And I tried to hide most of the time my feelings at that point in time. I mean, I related to one thing, being a geek, a nerdy guy that enjoys watching certain things that most people don't at all, which is, that kind of helped me connect there. But it's just like, the emotions of the character are vital, and it gets to a point to where it becomes less and less annoying and more like, okay, this is kind of a part of him. They call him the crybaby hero, but it's like, he gets more and more involved with people, and people see a human being more than just, this human or this like non-human entity. And we get the exact opposite later on in the Vigilante arc. Another spoiler ahead. If you want to mute here, you certainly can, or move on to another timestamp. He gets this emotionally negative arc where he kind of just shuts everybody off, shuts himself off, and just uses his ability in such a way to where even his clothes turn him into this monstrous looking creature. And it's a neat thing. However, I still, even if it is kind of part of his character and it kind of works, I still find it very annoying. I still find it a little irritating here and there, and it makes sense. Yeah, it's a bunch of this pressure relieving off him, but like, okay, you don't always need to cry. Sometimes you can just save that for off screen. You don't always need to do that. It's okay not to cry sometimes. It's okay to cry sometimes. You need a balance, and I feel like with a lot that's happened with Deku, we don't get a whole bunch of emotional balance at all until maybe near the end, where he's not crying a whole lot. And this is more so like with the Vigilante arc, that's kind of more so nearing the end, more so. I'm kind of basing it off of the things that I somewhat know, because I've been spoiled a lot of the ending. I know what happens, unfortunately, but in context, it's like, for me, it's hard to really get with a character that is just so overly emotional, that's so overly like this. But with the context of being in high school, it kind of helps, but it just feels like sometimes it's an excuse. Now, this also brings me to, what are my issues with the fan base? It's one thing to dislike a character quality, but to completely disregard the main character just because he chooses a much more peaceful lifestyle and being a teacher and going back to being quirkless, and another spoiler ahead, another mute icon will be here. I think it saddens me. And they made a bunch of memes to where like Bakugo rolled up with Ochako in his arms, acting like they're dating or something like that, making him look like I hate using this word, a cuck, but it's like, okay, like, I understand that you don't like what they did to Deku and you're making fun of him for it, but it's like, man, man, we all live in a day and age where stuff like that happens all the time, but this is also like, this is like a 25-year-old Deku. He's probably not too concerned about getting a girl right now, despite the fact, yeah, he does think about it, Chaco. He's just more like, okay, I gotta go help these students, I gotta go do this, and this, and he's a grown-up, which is interesting. Now, this also brings me to the other side of the fan base where they overly emphasize how great of a character he is, how great of a main character he is, and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, the first portions of My Hero Academia, the entirety of the times of Season 1, he is been at a point where he was getting grading. And it took him a couple of seasons to get any better. I'm not saying he's a bad main character, but I'm just saying, really? You're really going to overhype this little kid who's barely understanding what's going on? Like, another thing, now this, I probably should have brought this up in my own video. I didn't realize this until now. It's like, you're literally bringing a teenager into a whole world of hurt. Like, literally, every time Deku would use it in the earlier seasons, he would break his limbs every single time. And what bothers me is that they don't recognize that, yeah, it can be grating. Over-emotionalism is degrading for a character. There is nothing wrong with crying for a character. There's nothing wrong with having an emotional release, but when you feel like it's over and overly done, it's ridiculous. And this doesn't detract from Deku being, he's still a good main character. Like, he has these great qualities about him, like his resourcefulness, like his friendliness, the way he actually affects his classmates. It's amazing. And I wish there were more people like him out there where they had these nerdy qualities but had this ability to have such interactions with people, to inspire people. I wish there were more kids like that, to be honest. And unfortunately, like I said, the over-emotionalism kind of gets in the way, even with the context of a high schooler. And I remember specifically watching this video. I forgot the name of the guy, but his thing's his avatar is a snowman, which it just looks like Olaf, a weirdly poorly drawn Olaf. And mind you, he's a very, very good video creator, but I'm like, the man's glazing Deku up and down. And I'm like, okay, I'm actually getting really annoyed, and it made me click off. And it made me realize, okay, there's one side of the spectrum, as I mentioned, that are negatively affected, like they kind of crap on Deku all the time. And then there's a point of they overglaze him like crazy on this one other side of the fan base. And I'm like, guys. And I'm not just saying, oh, well, you need to go split down the middle. No, it's like your choice on how you want to do things. If you want to make fun of the main character, go ahead. I don't care. I don't care about your opinion. Neither do I care about the people that, well, I care about the people, but I do not care about the opinion of how they glaze him so crazy. So, where I'm at is, there's flawedness in this, but then there's overemphasis on the emotionalism. There's overemphasis on this, and it's like, you need a main character who has a balance of that. And despite being a teenager, despite that, a lot of teenage boys nowadays don't really necessarily act like that, especially in front of people. It's a little unrealistic. It's a little grating, as mentioned, but it's like we can't expect him to be the most perfect character, and we can't expect him to be the worst character either. So this brings me to where I'm at now. Our next question, actually. What do I hope for the future? I honestly hope we get a Spider-Man-esque storytelling to where he gets to balance his life with becoming the world's greatest hero and balancing his life as a teacher. teaching students how to be that kind of hero, and being able to not only be with his classmates, but like maybe see them less and less as if it's like real life, rather than just make a sequel series. Don't make it My Hero Academia Z. Make it My Hero Academia in such a way where it adds on to the legacy of the original series. Because, and I don't make fun of Dragon Ball Z for saying this, because it's not just an additional thing. It actually added on to Goku's story, of course. But what I'm saying is, you do not want a sequel series where it just seems boring. It just seems tacked on, no reason. You want to have some sort of emotional storytelling in such a way where it makes sense to the reader. Not overemphasis on the over-emotionalism, because this guy, at this point in time in the story, he's 25. He's my age. My age. Which is wild to think about. All these people are young adults. I'm not saying they're not allowed to have emotions. What I am saying is they need to balance the emotionalism with emotional maturity and wanting to continuously learn. Because as a young adult myself, I continually learn every day. And especially when it comes to video making, I'm learning more and more stuff. I literally learned, as you saw with the introduction for my Skypiea manga review, I learned how to keyframe for that whole entire intro, and I'm still learning more things. I'm still learning a bunch of different stuff I haven't known to do before. And so seeing that kind of aspect of a young adult be put into that, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see the stress. I'd like to see the pressure of trying to be this person that you're not, and then eventually learning to accept of who you are again. Because a lot of the time when you're in your early 20s, you begin to understand yourself, and then you begin to not to, and then you're back to understanding yourself, and then sometimes you can get lost in the sauce sometimes, and you can forget your own health, you can forget your own, and we got that in the Vigilante arc, but we need it in such a way where it's a very mature way of thinking about it, and seeing it as is, where he makes the same mistake, but he realizes, okay, wait a minute, I've been here before, why am I doing this again? Okay, time to go take a break and go take care of myself. And then also learn about new problems as a young adult. How you can have an incredible situation where people are suing people for saving them. People suing the heroes for saving them because it's in a peaceful time. People are gonna get tired. They're not gonna see any use for the heroes anymore. I'd like to see that. More importantly, just see where a modern era, or a peaceful era, excuse me, not modern, a peaceful era turn into turmoil due to the lack of villains in the story, and see the consequences of a peaceful era, or a so-called peaceful era, because there's always some underlying problem. Because sometimes the villains of the story aren't always the main villain. Sometimes the villains of the story are the people that you try to save. And to see that in a story like in My Hero would be amazing, because it's like there are people that are very ungrateful to people that are like that. I'll give you an example. The Vietnam War. That was the first war, and this was a huge mistake on their part. This was the first war that was ever recorded in history and shown on television. And it made the Vietnam soldiers the soldiers that fought in Vietnam look like monsters. It showed them the ugliness of war. And when they came back home, they got turned into these monsters in the civilians' eyes and got disrespected. My uncle was part of the Navy at that time, and he drove the boats that would bring them up to the shore and drop them off, and he would have to deal with mustard gas and a mix of other things, and also seeing maybe many of his comrades just die. And so what I'm trying to get to is basically we want to get to the point to where these heroes, the Class 1A that are now adults, have their own issues that the heroes of the past never had. Because in the same way those soldiers in Vietnam were sent out, a lot of the people of the past never had those issues. Especially having to deal with people hating them. Especially dealing with that. And having that kind of essence of people will turn on you in any moment. Really could work out. And I'm not saying we need to constantly make it negative all the time. But I am saying you need to make it more somewhat realistic, because at the end of the day, some innocent person is going to get hurt due to these little rescue missions, due to these guys flying through the air somewhere, or due to somebody accidentally hitting somebody else with some shrapnel or something. And to see that kind of storytelling in that story would be not only awesome, but mature and realistic. At one point in my life, I was very similar to Deku in more ways than I like to admit. I felt like a loser who didn't have a purpose. I eventually grew out of that mindset in my mid-20s. But because of that experience, I see Deku as a younger version of myself. And I can recognize the flaws in him and the struggles he was dealing with, I used to deal with. Not necessarily in the sense of I was a hero, but the things that many teenage boys go through only carries the weight of being one of the strongest heroes in the series. Midoriya, to me, feels like a different and newer version of the Spider-Man archetype. More complex, more grounded with some emotional reality. Over time, I've grown to appreciate this character for what he is. A flawed young man with an enormous responsibility and the burden of upholding a legacy built on heroism. This has been a very interesting video for me because I have a very strange relationship with the series, especially with Miydoriyia. It ended up giving me more perspective on my own life than I ever expected. And I hope talking about this, I can do the same for you guys, to help you guys think about your own lives and realize that your story is worth living and it is just as important as the ones that we watch. We are valuable, not because we deserve the value, but because someone out there saw that value in us and sacrificed something so we could become who we are meant to be. Not just to be the hero of our story, but the hero in someone else's life. And as a great man once said, enough said. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed the discussion and want to join the Bernhardt Fire Brigade, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you can never miss any more new discussions and videos on the channel. This is the Captain signing off. I bid you adieu. I'm out. Peace.